Dudes, what's up? Nutnfancy here, reviewing the outstanding FNP-9 9mm semi-automatic pistol. As promised to some of my subscribers, I know they've been waiting for this review. Now keep in mind, when I review a gun, it's just a data point. It's my own philosophy and takes on the gun, but it might help you in you narrowing down your choices in defensive weaponry. And I know money's tight, so the more information you can get, the better it is. I will tell you right off, I'm a big fan of the FNP-9, and by association, probably the FNP-40, maybe even the 45 as well. Yes, this pistol is made in a variety of calibers. However, for the review, I'm just going to concentrate on the 9mm version. I think the 9mm is a very size-efficient and effective cartridge, contrary to all the controversy over it. I don't really subscribe to that. It's cheaper to practice with, it's cheaper to buy, and it's effective in the defensive loadings that are out there now, especially if you go with the plus P or maybe plus P plus loadings. It will get the job done. So I'm going to concentrate on the FNP-9. Here we go. Let's talk a little bit about the company FN. FN, even though it's a foreign-held company, in my opinion, it's kind of American in a lot of ways. In fact, this FNP-9 is made indeed in the United States, as is, or maybe I should say, as are most of the firearms that are sold in America. Even a lot of the military contractually produced firearms, like the GP240, the M249 Mini-Me, those are made by FN under license in the United States, and they're serving right now in all theaters of war with the United States and other allied armies. So FN has a lot of experience producing weapons. They also go back a long ways with the U.S. Specifically, John Moses Browning couldn't get his Browning high power produced by anybody in the States. So who did it? Hello, FN. FN stepped up to the plate, produced the FN high power, and that's why to this day, the FN high power, which is also an outstanding pistol design, soldiers on and is very much associated with FN and always will be. Enough said about that. I like FN, I like what they do, and I like how they have a big U.S. held interest here in the United States, and therefore we shouldn't be prejudiced against them because, you know, they're not 100% American. They do a lot of good work. As I go down the review of the FNP-9, I'm going to compare it against my other standard, the Glock 17, which you've seen before in many videos. And I also will kind of roll in a borrowed SR9 as well, because SR9 is a very close competitor to the FNP in price. Therefore, it merits attention. And so as we go down my list of talking points, as I try to do, I will bring those two guns into the mix and we'll look at the different features. Now, like I said, I've said before, when Nutnfancy reviews a gun, all it is a data point. It's my own philosophy, it's my own takes of the way I see things. And I think they're well reasoned. I don't apologize for them. You will see that they're very honest, both pro and con, and I think they'll arm you with a lot more information than otherwise you would have. I don't really spend any time in the forums, so there's probably things that are said or not said about a particular item I review. I just don't have time. I just apply my own experiences and those of my associates whom I respect, and I know for a fact that they know what they're talking about, and I'll intermingle their opinions as well into my reviews. So, by the way, thanks to Impact Guns. They are hosting this review, as they often do. Sorry if there's a little bit of echo, but that's the nature of the acoustics in the room I'm in. So, let's get going. I'm going to try to do this maybe in two parts. Heck, and one would be great. I just don't think that's doable. First off, we're going to talk about philosophy of use, or POU. This is a Nutnfancy term, i.e. my own, in which I will, how is the item we're looking at designed to be used? How do I envision it being used? This isn't a plinking pistol. This isn't a target pistol. This is a defensive firearm. This is a gun designed to defend your life with maybe offensive capabilities if you're a law enforcement officer, maybe a military member, maybe a concealed carry permit holder that is legally defending your life, then yeah, it would be an offensive tool to use as well. Actually, in that situation, more defensive. And I generally refer to handguns as defensive tools, not offensive tools. And that's a POU on this gun. Also, I don't think the FNP-9 is a concealed carry gun. It's just too thick. It's too big, it's too thick, and I don't think it would lend itself very well to concealed carry. That's just me. Now, of course, it's light enough to be carried like that, definitely. However, there's a lot better options. Maybe the CAR PM9, the CAR PM40, CW series from the CAR. Oh, there's a lot. Keltec PF9. They're thinner and a lot less bulky than the FNP-9. However, I understand that some dudes go, hey man, I have no problem carrying that. Well, of course, if the weight, again, is very decent, I'll get to that in a second. If you are committed to adjusting your wardrobe, of course you can carry this gun. There's a lot of different holsters, both vertical, horizontal carry, maybe some pancake holsters, doable. But I primarily see the FNP-9 as being a service type pistol to be carried openly in a holster. That's just me. And I also think the Glock 17 is the same way. So just by way of reference. How's the weight on it? Well, I brought Mr. Scale in earlier. There it is. And I weighed all of these guns. And what do I mean by all these guns? Well, I'm going to compare it against the SR9, which is price compatible, and also the Glock 17 you just saw. And the weight goes something like this. Guess who wins? FNP. FNP is the lightest at 24.6 ounces. The Glock 17 comes in second for weight, and that's 25.2. Now, that's not a huge difference, about 3/4 of an ounce. So pretty much the same weight between these two guns, truth be told. The SR9 Ruger, borrowed, thank you very much from the user as well, is a little bit heavier at 26.8 ounces, so 27 ounces. So it does weigh a couple more ounces, almost 3 ounces more than the FNP-9. So the FNP-9 is an amazingly light gun. And when I first started studying the FNP-9, I will tell you I was a fan from the get-go just by reading the specifications. It was lightweight, ergonomic, tough. They had a hammer forged barrel in there. A lot of good features. And now that I've held it and I've studied it at length, I agree with all that. It just is. And I'll get down as I get to talking points. But for the weight, it is an amazingly lightweight gun. And actually in hand, truth be told, it feels even a little bit lighter than the Glock 17. Granted, it is a half ounce or so lighter, but you wouldn't think it would feel that much different. But indeed it does. Great job, FN, on keeping the weight of the FNP pistols super light. Love that. And again, guys that are watching this may go, well, who cares about weight? I don't care if my gun weighs, 60 ounces. Well, like you've seen in a lot of other my videos, and if you haven't, you need to spend some more time with them. Weight is a very critical firepower versus mobility issue. The heavier the weight of the gun, your magazines, your ammo, your loadout in total, the less mobile you're going to be. And you're going to tire out quicker, you're going to need more water, you're going to need more food, you're going to have to rest more frequently, depending on what the tactical scenario is. However, weight, we should always try to shave ounces off our loadout whenever we can. Occasionally, though, weight is such that I get something for the weight I'm carrying. And let me give you an example. If I'm shooting plates in a competition, I don't mind having a full-size 1911, which weighs around 38.5 ounces versus this 24.6 ounces. That's because the gun in competition is more stable, it's easier to shoot, it's easier to hit with, and I'm shooting a full-size 45 caliber, which for me is more effective, at knocking down steel plates. So in that situation, a competition, I would prefer a full-size, heavier 1911. But as a civilian sheepdog, as a police officer carrying my gun 24/7, I don't want weight. I want something light that doesn't give up anything in capability. Welcome to the world of FNP-9. I think it does just that. That takes us to firepower. How much firepower does FNP-9 have? Let's start with the Glock 17. 16 rounds in the 9mm chambering. A little bit less in the 40, lesser still with a 45. And that stacks against, 19 rounds for a Glock? Make sure I'm saying that. Yep, that's right. 19 rounds for a standard magazine in a Glock. So it gives up a few rounds in firepower. 16 as of 2008 is not overly impressive. Could be, but just isn't. SR9, a newer pistol design. I have a video out there. Look for it. 17 rounds. So it still beats FNP by 1 round. Now, 1 round isn't nothing to write home about. I know that. It's not that big of a deal. But more is better, and especially when we're talking about an efficiency issue, kind of like the lines of 9mm. I like more. More means easier to carry, lighter weight, and more firepower. Options. Remember options? Options are good. However, it's still 1 more round than a standard SIG 226, which I believe just holds 15. So not bad and certainly adequate. By the way, I call these magazines normal capacity magazines. Don't use the terminology high capacity. That's a misnomer. The gun was designed for this amount of rounds in the magazine, therefore it is a normal capacity magazine. A high capacity magazine for the FNP-9 would be 100, in my opinion. Okay, so let's get our terminology straight, and let's not help those individuals out there that seek to take away your rights to self-defense. Enough said on that. By the way, while we're talking about it, there are a couple issues with the magazine of the FNP that I want to address. First off, I do not care for its bright stainless steel finish. Okay, it's very loud, and yes, in a tactical environment, I wouldn't like it at all. Compare that against, of course, the Glock or even the SR9, which I just showed you. Those are all blackened. Why did they go with the bright stainless? Well, they want it to insert easily, and you know, there's something to be said for the slickness of polished or semi-polished stainless steel. Maybe Scotch-Brite is better said. I understand that, but still, that is a glinting surface. Don't care for it. They need to blacken these magazines for sure. Also, the round count, I don't like the witness holes for it. I much prefer the way the Ruger SR9 does theirs. Sorry, swapping out here. Their side, and they're very precise. If you look at the witness holes on the SR9, they go every 2 rounds, as opposed to kind of the arbitrary 5, 10, 13, 16 round count at the rear of the FNP-9. Just a small criticism. However, maybe not such a small criticism is the design of the base plate on the FNP series pistols. Not kind of goofy. I don't mind the angle here, that's okay, but I've been told by some users that this portion here will get in the way of your magazine carriers, and there's a lot of dudes that actually end up dremeling or machining this lip off because it interferes with a double magazine carrier. You can see that it kind of extends out, aids ergonomics maybe a little bit. However, it'd probably be better off just to get rid of it. So just a couple issues with magazines. Nothing show-stopping, definitely, and adequate cartridge capacity at 16. I think that's good. It is, however, coming in second to the Glock and SR9 designs. That brings us to durability and reliability. Well, it's a new design. I cannot speak authoritatively about how durable the FNP series pistols will be. However, it's probably a good indication, looking at their other designs, military ones included, that FNP makes some pretty durable guns. And I think the FNP will prove itself to be SIG, maybe even Glock-like in some ways. But only time will tell. That's pretty much an educated guess. Reliability, all indications and all my research indicate that the FNP is extremely reliable. In fact, I have heard no negative reports at all about the FNP as far as reliability goes. If I do, and if they're verified, I'll either change the description or annotate it on the video as time goes on. If I find that the FNP is indeed problematic in some ways, I want to give you guys the best information I possibly can, and I update my videos accordingly. But will it rise to the level of the Glock design? Well, dudes, the Glock's been around since, what, 1984 or mid-80s? It's going to be hard for this gun to come to the level of the Glock. Only time will tell. And for that to happen, this design, i.e. the FNP, has to become very popular. One reason the Glock is so proven is because it has become so very popular, being adopted by thousands upon, well, not thousands, but hundreds upon hundreds of law enforcement agencies, at least in the United States, even worldwide, and then millions of civilian users as well. So it has a huge database to draw from, and yeah, every gun can malfunction, every gun can have problems and break, but the record that the Glock design has amassed is extremely impressive in Nutnfancy's opinion, and it remains my standard of pistol by way of reference. The FNP, will it rise to that level? We'll see. Time will tell, you know, but I said the same thing when I told you about the SR9. The SR9 review, same thing. Time will tell. And there's really no substitute for time. Except perhaps maybe someone going out like Chuck Taylor and putting, tens of thousands of rounds through the pistol. Don't look to Nutnfancy to ever do that. I don't have the money, nor the time. But maybe someone will. That would be really cool if someone came out with an FNP and just put it through a torture test. And I apologize. If it's already out there, I don't know about it. I just didn't have time to research that to that level. But I expect very, very good things from the FNP. That brings us to accuracy. I'll try to cover this before end of part 1 on the FNP. All indications show it's just as accurate as a Glock. I think combat accuracy, let me change that. Excellent to outstanding combat accuracy from a service pistol to me means about 2.5 inches at 25 yards, maybe even 2 inches. And from all indications, FNP-9 is capable of doing that. I do not personally have trigger time on this gun yet, by way of disclosure. I just don't. I hope to have it in the future from a colleague or however I get a hold of it. However, I just don't. But the Glock is extremely accurate. I've shown you test targets from it and talked about it at length in other videos. And I've shown you the SR9 out in the tactical clinic being shot, and I've proven that that's extremely accurate. Also being able to make man-size hits readily at even 100 yards. That's right. Watch the video of the SR9. That thing's amazing. I don't think the FNP-9 is any less of a handgun myself. I think it's going to do just as well in the accuracy department and hold its own. That's end of part 1, dudes. Tune in part 2. This is Nutnfancy series. I hope to end it in just part 2 of the FNP-9 by FN Herstal. Thanks for tuning in.